Hey folks, good evening. Hey folks, good evening. Wow, there's a bunch of people in here. A lot of folks that are the content creators or the meatloaf makers. That's cool. Hey John, how are you? Welcome, sir. Vernon, how are you? We're going to take care of business. Your main concern first thing once we go to 7 o'clock. Little Red Southern Kitchen, how are you? Tennille Milam, Hat Creek, Miss Lottie Da. You know, there's a whole bunch of outstanding folks that were doing the meatloaf. They all showed up. Missy at Shore Homestead, how are you? Life and More Reloaded, Britton Farm Homestead. Outstanding. Makes my heart warm. We got some folks in here that are new to our live. Michelle Weibel or Weeble. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. Hello, welcome. So we'll kind of start in a couple of minutes, but this will be pretty limited tonight in what we're going to do. So the main thing is we're going to talk about all very briefly. Obviously, you know, we ended with 38 entries, which was more than I ever anticipated. So you know, super excited about that. Hey Tony, how are you? Hey Boone, good evening. 38 entries is what we ended with, and you know, technically it's probably not finished until tonight is when it will close. But you know, as of the time that we went live tonight, we got 38 entries. So I'm going to go through those. You know, try to spend a few minutes. I've looked at every one of them at length, probably 2 or 3 times. You know, kind of picked out some that, you know, some of them are just funny. Other ones are just very novel or unique in how the meatloaf recipe was made. So this will be fun, I think. Missy, that's what I said. If I could have gotten 20 entries, I would have been happy. But 38 just blows my mind. We got 3 just in the last couple of days. I entered the last 2 onto the intro page actually at work today. So just really happy with the outcome, with the result here. So, you know, now we're going to go to phase 2 to use some pandemic language, where we'll start voting on these things for the month of October. You know, hopefully folks, you know, that's the whole purpose of this, is to kind of push traffic to individual sites. You know, folks have asked, well, why don't we just use that thumbs up? And I thought about that. That's kind of the original plan. But then I realized that there's channels that would participate in this that might have less than 100, and then some may have thousands. And I didn't want to make a thumbs up the vote, because that's going to give a significant advantage to larger channels over smaller ones. So that's what we're going to do. Is this live tonight, when it gets posted tomorrow, will be the voting booth for the Meatloaf War. So, you know, folks that want to vote, you just come in and put in there, you know, write in there who you want to vote for, and that's kind of how it's going to work. So it's 7 o'clock. Rick, you want to go ahead and get started on this?
Sure can. Yep.
Okay. So, all right. So we got 2 orders of business today. How many folks we got in here? I don't know how to read this. Where does it say that?
Up at the top, you got 15.
Okay, cool.
Right next to live 6, it says like live 605. It says 15 people are watching.
Okay, outstanding. So, you know, Rick is he's the production on the back end, and he's the magic behind the controls. You know, as folks come in, as we, you know, highlight channels, Rick, when we go through each video, do you think you can put a link in there for each channel?
I believe I might be able to do
in the
that.
live do that.
As
So
long as enough people say thank you for multitasking.
and then once this goes live, we're going to add in links to it. We're going to add in hyperlinks in the description so that all of the participants in this will be pretty easy to find from one source, and just go from there. So let's go ahead and get rolling on this. We got the Meatloaf videos are going to take probably a little over an hour and 15 minutes or so. So that's really the focus of what we're doing tonight. But before we do that, the other piece of business that we're doing is, and probably many people on this live stream will not know what I'm talking about. Some will. One in particular, Vernon Daniels. Vernon has contacted me at least a half a dozen times to kind of trying to get in clues of what we're about to talk about. So on September 1st of this month, we posted a video called the Whiz Bang Chicken Plucker. And at the end of that video, literally in the last 15-20 seconds, we said we're doing a giveaway. Now, we didn't promote that at all. So the only folks that participated in the giveaway were ones that literally watched that video all the way to the end. And we haven't promoted it because I didn't want to give folks the opportunity to go back. They either watched the whole thing or they didn't. A lot of folks did watch the whole thing. So we ended up, so basically what that was is I had built a homemade chicken plucker. I was not willing to spend the money for a prefabbed one. So I went out and I got the plans to build my own. We did that. Works like a champ. I mean, it takes the feathers off of a 7-pound chicken in about 15 seconds. Can you cue that up when we talk about this, Rick, just so that you can kind of show what it is?
Yep, I was saying, Ed, I'm gonna do I'm gonna say a few things. Ed, thank you. Hello, Rick. Is what he said. Who was it? Go up, Rosa Madden. Thank you very much.
Hey, Rosa, how are you? Welcome.
Good. So hit that like button. And so did somebody else said it was a little bit further up. But yeah, everybody hit that like button. I'm gonna go find that video real quick.
Okay, so we had this giveaway. We didn't tell anybody we were doing it, and the only way you'd even know about it is if you watched that whole chicken plucker video. And we've just been logging guesses, so people that would go to the comments probably would not have a clue what anyone's talking about, because we ended up with 21 guesses, and the question at the end of that video was how many chicken plucker fingers are actually in the chicken plucker, in the Whiz Bang chicken plucker. We had 21 guesses. The low guess was 45. The high was 220 fingers. The two closest, now the rules of this, you had to be closest to the number of fingers without going over, kind of like the Price is Right kind of philosophy. So you could be close, but you couldn't go over. So the winner is between Homestead Fresh, and I don't think they're on here, and one of our personal friends that Lil Rick works with, Ed Hall. And so Homestead Fresh guessed 136 plucker fingers, and Ed Hall guessed 145. There are actually, in that chicken plucker, 142 fingers. So Homestead Fresh will win this Whiz Bang chicken plucker. So this is actually the design specs for building the chicken plucker that was featured on September 1st of this month. This thing here. So works like a champ, and this is made of wood and a food grade.
And then there was some modifications. You can put wheels and stuff on it. I don't know that
got a 1-horse motor on it, so there's 142 plucker fingers in
design. Now, for those of you
down under Farm and Forge, good day to you too. And he's coming in from down under from Australia.
We're going to do
put his entry in just a few days ago.
Rick's giving you some shots of the interior.
Small gardening, welcome. Let's move on. So we will be in touch with Homestead Fresh to let them know that they have won this. We'll probably embed some more of these giveaways at the end of videos or somewhere in a video. And those who watch the video, they'll be rewarded. Those who don't, you get good content still. So let's move on to the Meatloaf Wars. So You got them queued up, Rick? Okay. So we ended up having 38 entries into the Meatloaf Wars. It closes tonight. I guess you could say at midnight. The ones that we're featuring here, the 38 that I'm aware of as of right now, are the ones. So I finished kind of doing the editing or timestamps of what we're going to show. So obviously, some of these were really long. It took up 2 videos. For example, Rosa Madden went into a lot of detail on how to do hers. I think the shortest one was like 1:41, and everything in between. So there's no way that we can cover or look at every single one of them. So I tried to pick some key points out of different videos, and that's where we're going to kind of jump through them. If I saw something that was particularly interesting, then we'll go to that. But my goal is to have folks come to this video. Everything's going to be hyperlinked to it in the description. We're also going to put hyperlinks up above when we're covering that video, so folks can jump right from the video right to that video to make it really easy to look at whatever ones you want to look at. Then they will enter their voting on this video. So if you want to vote for all 38, then just indicate that. The end of October, we're going to manually tally up who is the winner of the Meatloaf Wars, and then they will then be provided a flag through that we will be ordering from a vendor. The one that's sitting behind Rick, Rustic Woodworks and Family, is the one that built that. If you have a channel that you want a logo on it, then we could probably arrange that. If you don't want a logo on it or you don't have a channel, that's fine too. We can do that. But that's really what we're giving away, is that flag to the winner of the Meatloaf Wars, that person or that channel who has accumulated the most votes. So let's dig into this. So the very first entry, and we talked about this on my, hey, Off Kilter, how are you, sir?
Hey, y'all. Welcome to my channel. What I'm doing
so we talked about this in the original intro video. When I kind of conceived of this idea of the Meatloaf Wars, it was on the Nothing Edited live stream. I was sitting at work and just kind of listening to it as I was working, and we started talking. They started talking about food, and I said, it'd be really cool to do a competition. And by the end of that live stream, I had conceived of the Meatloaf Wars, and like I said, we were talking briefly before folks came on. It's gotten larger than I ever imagined. So we're ending this, I think, with probably 38 channels participating. But this was the very first one. When I posted the intro video, Nothing Edited, who is what you're looking at right now, came on and said, I've just been waiting for this. It took me about 3 or 4 days to get the intro video done and up, and just really good. Are you sharing the audio, Rick? Okay. So this was the very first one. Kind of interesting things on this one was, onion soup mix was one of the ingredients. It's one of the varieties of things that I saw with different recipes. And it's kind of funny, and you'll see it as we go through them, because that's one of the areas I highlighted. Some people just dig in with their hands. Some folks used a spoon. Some people gloved up. Others used mixers, like KitchenAids. I thought it was kind of funny, so that was one of the things that really kind of stood out to me was how much variety is. Some people just said it's like gross. One person in there, as they're doing their video, were saying that they compared it to like mixing brains. I'm like, I don't know what your frame of reference is for that, but it was odd. So this is Nothing Edited. Go over and check Nothing out. Go ahead and skip up to 2046 on that one, right?
Hands full of meat. Is that?
So there's what you end up with. That's her loaf there. So it's covered in bacon. And then she put gravy over the top. Just look amazing.
Just released a report saying that if planned, like the one Trump is.
All right, you'll have to figure that out. All right. So it really looked good. So that was like right out of the gate. I kind of threw up the white flag saying, all right, I give up, because anytime you add bacon to anything, it just makes it so much more collectible. And so it was really amazing. So let's go to the next one, getting it done north of 7. So, this was a great collaboration in that, I got to meet a lot of people that, our paths had not crossed up to that date. And Beth and Roland were one of them. I mean, they had put their recipe in after being invited by another channel. And, I got to know them a little bit more after they put in after they put up their video. So that was awesome. So we're going to run that up to 45 on the intro, right?
From getting it done north of 7. This is my hashtag Meatloaf Wars video.
So some of these, they've got very novel intros, so I'm going to kind of play that as well.
I'm going to go in there and give her a hand, and we're going to have some fun with this. So if you're looking to find more about this Meatloaf Wars, down in the description below, I'll have a link to the playlist, or you can just type in hashtag Meatloaf Wars in the search bar on YouTube and hit enter, and it'll take you right to it. So I'm going to head into the kitchen now, and if you're not subscribed to our channel,
and I see your comments. I'm not able to kind of read them because I'm navigating. So I see your comments asking if anyone's seeing your comments.
best ever meatloaf.
We have a pound of hamburger, and I'm going to put in 2 eggs.
So then jump up to about 330 on this one. So one of the ingredients in this recipe that I thought was pretty interesting is they're using carrots. And this was the only recipe out of all of them that used carrots in their ingredient list. And Beth here, this kind of goes to what I was talking about earlier. She's kind of a spoon mixer. So, a lot of folks are digging in with their hands. Some use the mixer, but, Beth goes at it with the spoon. I think that would hurt my hand to do that. The recipe looked fantastic. Run up to 722.
The oven is just cooling off a bit. We're about ready to sit down and eat.
So there's the complete recipe there. And then, one thing I learned about Roland, he's got a great sense of humor. If you've watched his shout outs the last couple of weeks, I'm not going to give you any hints. Go check Roland's shout outs out on getting it done north of 7. They're pretty hilarious. Go up to 8 on that video. He closes us with a bit of Meatloaf humor.
Hello, if you like.
You still on it?
Hit that like button. I appreciate it all. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next good. It's like paradise. This meatloaf is so good. It's like paradise by the dashboard light.
All right. So that's getting it done north of 7. Then we went to our entry into this, and look, I'm just not even competitive. I thought our video would be, or our recipe would be competitive. It looks nice, but holy mackerel, there's some of these are just incredibly good looking recipes. So, I'm just going to run through kind of our intro. And this was the gauntlet throwdown for starting the meatloaf. And some people, it was funny in their videos. They kind of called me out on it.
Farmed entry into the Meatloaf Wars, along with the egg. In a normal recipe,
this is Ulrich's video editing magic.
1 egg. 4-pound recipe. We're going to use Lala eggs.
Then go to 1530.
We end up selling from our.
So there's the final product there, and then we had this particular recipe that night that we did this. We had our entire family. It is ginormous, Little Red. It was 4 pounds, but believe it or not, that is not the largest one that got entered. The night that I made this, we were cooking for 11 people.
Into the Meatloaf War.
Every time I watch one of these, I literally, my mouth starts watering. Some of these are just off the hook, crazy good looking. So this night we had, this is a pan cornbread, this was loaded mashed potatoes, and then this was a new pie that Lala had tried out. It's a cast iron skillet apple pie. It was pretty good.
What do you think?
All right. Moving on to Walsh Farms, my buddy Tony Walsh.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a cooking video. because there's
We'll
always
go up to 112 on this one.
maybe you'll find a meatloaf that you like. So let's get to the kitchen.
All right, I'm going to run you through our
So
ingredients.
this was kind of a traditional meatloaf. They call it a Texas meatloaf.
Using
And Tony went gloved on this one. You know, I'm wash my hands and dig in and get it all mixed up. They went gloved on it. And they kind of use a similar glaze on this recipe that I use. I call it liquid goodness.
We have salt.
I mean, it was pretty phenomenal. Ed, those eggs are great, but I think anybody that's got homegrown eggs, you just can't eat store-bought eggs anymore. I was traveling several months ago pre-pandemic, and I dropped into a convenience store and got some pre-hard-boiled eggs, and they were just horrible. I couldn't eat them. I threw them away. So that's the Walsh Farms recipe. It looks really, really good. I mean, just a straightforward, no frills meatloaf. This one here, this is the Big Blue House Homestead, and this might be the largest one in the competition. Sarah said she's cooking for a very large family. Run this up to 138, Ricky. That's what that means.
Good to go. So here we go. Time to make the meatloaf.
Okay.
Okay.
You hear the rooster. I apologize. It's always noisy.
So this is probably the biggest one. Sarah went gloved as well. And kind of, she used, it was kind of funny also to see kind of how people cook their meatloaves. I use a drip pan because I don't like it soggy. But one of the last videos that we're going to see tonight, they just leave it in the loaf pan. And the argument was, if you drain all that fat off, you're just throwing away flavor. And I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see that. So I don't know that she might have convinced me to kind of reevaluate how I cook mine versus a drip pan into a loaf pan.
You want to make sure your meatloaves are always.
So once they make this loaf, then I think that one is bigger than ours. That's the finished product there. Then she glazes this thing. Just really an amazing looking recipe she's got there.
Especially if you make a homemade sauce. Half hour later, and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so it's out.
Look at that goodness. Woo, boy.
Down the middle to make sure it was done, and it's perfect. So now I'm just going to.
Hey guys, it's Angie from Life and More Reloaded. Welcome back to our Meatloaf Wars. Started by Lala Farms. I'll leave a link in the description below.
All right, moving on to Life and More Reloaded. Now, this, completely honest, without, this was very early. This was my front runner personally, simply because of what they wrapped this in. This was an incredible recipe. I don't know if it's my favorite anymore now that we've got some more, but this one was really, really good. Some of the ingredients they use, I don't know if all of you have had a Vidalia onion before, but it is a really, really sweet onion. Doesn't have an oniony flavor. In fact, I will make just an onion sandwich from a Vidalia onion with a little bit of mayo, blue plate mayo or Duke's with nothing but an onion on it, and it is fantastic. But what makes this recipe different, you're going to see that in a minute, is at 404. Up until this point, it's kind of the same as most other recipes until we get to this point.
A little over half a pound of bacon.
That's what makes this. She actually hand weaved bacon to wrap around this meatloaf. That's just insane. And that's what kind of that's what had me sold. That was my vote until we got further into the competition. Look at that thing. Absolute meatloaf goodness right there.
Isn't that
the crazy thing to me is watch her cut this open.
Bacon. Let's cut into this.
Oh.
Let's cut it open and see what it's going to do. Oh boy!
Look at that. Oh.
Isn't.
And the funny thing is, I got home only about 30 minutes or so before we went live, so I haven't even eaten dinner yet, and I'm doing this. That's just probably not a great idea. Vernon, are you up in Vidalia, Georgia?
There's only 3 of us in the house. That's why my meatloaf.
That's good.
But anyway.
All right. So I don't want to give more airtime to one versus the other. So once we got once we got
Hi, everyone.
into
Today
these, and I
I'm
saw
going
that,
to-
they were using a Vidalia onion. Several years ago, I tried to get Vidalia seed, and you can't buy Vidalia onion seed. Vidalia is basically where they're grown in Georgia.
If you want to participate
Yeah,
as
but it was,
well,
it
go
was a
ahead
great
and put
onion.
the link below.
So this
You can go
is
ahead in the search window and
Cooking
type
with Sherry, and this was another one of my favorites. This is
First
just a
thing you will need
really,
to do
really
is put the,
unique recipe that combines meatloaf with stovetop stuffing. Stovetop stuffing has its own just amazing. I love stovetop stuffing. It's quick, it's easy, and then this one was novel because they also use this butt pan to cook it. So just really a cool idea. But how she presents this at the end was really kind of unique as well. There's a reason she used the bunt pan, and I was like, wow, that's cool.
With clean hands, go ahead and just mix the hamburger.
So this is what she deep dives in with those hands. No fear, no fear.
There you have it.
There you go. So she took the bunt, she took it out of the bunt pan, loaded the middle of it with mashed potatoes, soaked the whole thing in gravy. It doesn't get any better than that. That's amazing.
There's the gravy in the center of the ring of.
All right, moving on, we come to, all right, this one's gonna make you laugh. This one I love, Highland Homestead. So Eva, I don't think she is on here. She goes by Go-Go Mama. So we're gonna play a little bit of the intro, quite a bit of the intro on this. Simply, this is a farm or a homestead that's very close to where I grew up in Western New York. She's only about 45 minutes from my hometown, and this is just an amazing recipe. 4 different meats she's using in this.
I'm doing good.
Down under Farm and Forge, I agree. You gotta love a bacon wrap meatloaf.
I have cans, I'm canning, and I'm doing.
Little Red Southern Kitchen, I don't know why they would be disappearing. I'm seeing everybody. I'm just not able to read them while we're doing this. Kind of Rick's doing that and trying to keep us moving along.
So I'm going to use a bread pan for the rest of my meatloaf that we have. So then we have 2 meals instead of 1.
So the thing that kind of struck me with this recipe, hey Susan Kraft, how are you? The thing that struck me with this recipe was she's using this clay pot. That's what she's cooking this thing in. And I've never seen, number one, I've never seen a clay pot, or at least not in contemporary cooking. But that's what she cooks the meatloaf in, and that just looks really, really great because you're going to kind of not only get the heat in there, but it's going to steam it too, because you're not letting that moisture out. So that just looks amazing.
And it looks fantastic.
There's the presentation on this beast, and then the funny part here is when this is one of the ones that she kind of throws down the challenge at the end of this. Kind of funny.
We're going to eat this fantastic meal. I will link in the description down below. Lala Farms. So Meatloaf Wars, Lala Farms. Beat this.
So if you guys aren't, all of these channels, if you're not on these channels, all of these channels are just great folks. I encourage you to go visit them and give them your support because they're great content creators. I've got to know a lot of them much better through these Meatloaf Wars. Rosa Madden. Rosa is new to us since we started the Meatloaf, and I'm glad she's kind of come on board. This was a 2-video one, so she goes into a lot of detail on this particular meatloaf that she made. Rose has been a great supporter. She got pushed over to us from Nuffin Edited. So we've started to become more familiar with her channel as well. And again, if you can support these channels, go check them out. If you like what you see, give them a thumbs up. Hit that sub button. If you don't, no harm, no foul. But I think you'll like them.
Meatloaf. What's up, y'all? This is Rosa back with another video.
So you on the second one now, Rick? Okay.
So you guys, don't forget.
So this is kind of a traditional meatloaf that Rosa did. Looks pretty good. Looks really good. I like the fact that a lot of folks just kind of, showed us what they're having for dinner because, it just kind of rounds out the meal. And
Dug into it, yeah. Y'all know, y'all
but
see
she got a big old hungry son in the background. There he is, right there. There you go. He's just. That would be like me, just kind of standing there waiting to dig in. So, there we go. Very nice. All right, Tennille Milam. Tennille is another one that was new to us when she entered into the Meatloaf Wars. So, I've kind of been to her channel since, kind of checked that out. Again, just these are folks that had we not done this, I don't know that our paths would have ever crossed, but I'm glad they did. So Tennille's recipe is kind of interesting because she stuffs it with cheese. That's what that little hole is in the middle, and then she puts a whole nother layer of meat in there. So there were several stuffed entries, and then she covers that up, and then so you basically got a cheese stuffed meatloaf, which is just music to my ears, frankly. Doesn't that look good? Susan, I'm good. How are you? Got a little bit of a headache. I think it's allergies. This is that time of the year.
Minutes, so I'm going to transfer it to the plate like that.
So that's a great idea. She lined it with the foil so she could lift it out of that loaf pan. But check that out. Doesn't that just make your mouth water right there?
Beautiful cheese.
Look at that cheese in the middle.
I will have some meatloaf.
All right, Adventures of Frank and Tina. I know a lot of folks on here are familiar with this. Frank and Tina, you just never know what those two are going to do. They're just a hilarious couple. Yeah, this was a great video, just funny. Tina has just got, both of them just have incredible sense of humor, and that comes across in this video.
If we're gonna cook,
I don't know.
it's a fireball, friend.
Fireball, meatloaf.
It's pizza meatloaf.
It's for Fred to do it his way. I'm doing it my way. But this is totally different from most meatloaves. This is black mozzarella cheese in it.
so she's using matzah, lots of matzah cheese. So
that's right. Lots of mozzarella, not just a little, a lot.
I just love watching their channel. And they are just very generous people. If you haven't checked out Frank and Tina, go check them out. If you're trying to build traffic, they're just incredibly generous folks. They do regular shout outs for people, channels, but engage all of these folks. And hey, Lori, how are you? Welcome. Glad you could make it. Just great people.
Mozzarella and put it on
and more cheese. So I don't know how much cheese they put on this recipe, but at the end, when they show the finished product, it's melt in your mouth goodness is what it looks like.
This is off the chain.
Look at that. Go back just a little bit, right, before they cut it.
That's a meatloaf.
Yeah, look at that monster right there. Doesn't that look amazing? Woo.
You look at that.
And they called this a stolen Fireball Fred recipe because of all the cheese. Frank called it a meatloaf, or I'm sorry, a pizza meatloaf. There's actually one of those later as we go on. Just really great. All right, next one. There was 2 entries, so I got a call from. Pause that for a second, Rick. I got a call from, I got a message from Peggy at Page Family Homestead, asking me the question. Hey, Frank and Tina, how are you? You just missed your video, your premiere in the Meatloaf Wars. You just missed it literally by a minute. So I got a message from Peggy at Page Family Homestead saying, "Hey, I've got a unique recipe that I want to enter into the Meatloaf Wars." And I said, "Well, what is that?" And it was a canned meatloaf. We're going to get to that in a bit. So they made 2 entries. Her husband Andy, which is the next video, made one, and then Peggy also made an entry. Andy's is a mac and cheese meatloaf topped with ketchup. Potato chips. I've never heard of it. They're from Canada. And Peggy's is canned, so roll with it.
Hashtag Meatloaf Wars at Lala Farms?
Homestead,
yes.
Lala Homestead.
Nothing beats getting in there with your hands and mixing it up.
He's taking his rings off though before he digs into it. Down under, when you're ramping up, knowing that you're going to be watching all these Meatloaf videos tonight.
Okay. So we're going to put ketchup right down the middle here. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I've never even heard of this. They're in Canada, and he's using ketchup potato chips is what he coats this meatloaf in and then bakes it. It looks pretty amazing.
We are going.
I've never even heard of this. Look at that.
In the oven.
In the oven.
Back in an hour.
Be right back. Okay, so I know. Let's see the noodles.
Oh.
In the middle.
The thumbnail on this video is absolutely. Hey, Roland, how are you? You missed yours. Yours was the second one up.
Noodles.
Very nice.
So mac and cheese meatloaf. That looks pretty darn good. All right, rolling on. So that was Andy's. Then we go to Boots and Bonnets with Chris and Christy. This one really was one of my favorites as well. She takes this long, it looks like a poblano pepper, and fills it with cheese and sticks it in the middle of this meatloaf. I mean, it just looks like heaven. Hey, Nuffin, how are you? Sorry you're sick. Hope you're feeling better soon. Miss Lottie Da, I agree. I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm especially hungry. I probably should have eaten before I come and did this.
We tend to kind of like it moist.
So it's interesting. She puts this into the dish, and then she hollows it out and puts that I forget what she calls it, but it looks like a poblano if it's not my error. And then fills it with cheddar cheese.
And we are going
it looks. Look at that thing. Go back a little bit, Ricky.
Kind of seal it.
Right there. Look at this.
Okay, so we're going to make a
You open that thing up and then sticks that pepper in there, stuffs the pepper, and then closes it.
Just like that, and we're going to fill it with cheese. And I like to be pretty generous. Okay, I'm probably going to use half.
Yeah, that looks amazing. And this is something that they use. I've never even heard of this, but it's Whataburger spicy ketchup. I love that ketchup. I've had it at Whataburger, but I didn't know you could buy it in the store. I might have to go find some of that. So that was another favorite of mine, was that recipe, simply because of that pepper in there. So then we come up to Morris Patch of Heaven, and this is another channel. Check them out. This is a great channel, very family friendly channel, and they've got. In this one, some of the preparation content was gone because their camera battery went dead. So it kind of looks like it jumps a little bit, but she starts preparing the meatloaf, and then it's all of a sudden magically done. But it looks amazing. This was a Philly cheesesteak meatloaf. Who doesn't like Philly cheesesteak? But there's actually 2 cheesesteak entries. Hey, Gerald Farms, welcome.
That's all done. I will bring you back and show you how I put this all together. Like I said.
So there you go. And the novel thing about this is this was cooked in a cast iron skillet and baked in that cast iron skillet. It just looks absolutely amazing. And when she takes it out, Vernon, I'm going to have to check on that because you're talking about the Whataburger ketchup?
On top.
Look at this. Is that not an incredible looking meatloaf? Woo.
In oil or anything.
Susan, I'm hungry for meatloaf as well. I think though Lala made tacos for dinner, so I can't scratch my meatloaf itch tonight. Then we come up to Shay's journey. Shay was another one that I had not known about her channel prior to Meatloaf Wars, and her entry into this. So this is kind of a traditional meatloaf again. Go check out Shay's channel.
Hickory brown sugar barbecue sauce, some seasoning salt.
You're talking about how the dishes just build themselves, Ed?
red pepper, green pepper.
I don't know what's going on with chat. I mean, ours is scrolling. I'm not sure what's going on. Hey, Dancing Critters, how are you? Yours hasn't come up yet. It's on.
So in regards to the chat, the way this works, I'm pretty sure is the longer your comment is up, it's going to disappear. I mean, there's a lot of chat. I mean, you're getting more than one comment, or way more than one comment every few minutes, and I'm pretty sure it won't show the entire thread. That might be what's going on. I mean, we're seeing all your threads. It's just really, or seeing all your comments. It's just really hard to comment on each one. Trying to show everybody's video, and Papa likes to talk.
So I'm talking while Ricky's queuing, so we can't read all of those and do all of that at the same time, so we can kind of keep this moving and finish up in a reasonable amount of time. So this one's still Shay's, right? Yeah, this is really good. Look at it's just a glaze that she kind of spreads on there like that. And the interesting thing is she mixes it and bakes it all in the same pan. So that would make Lala really happy because there's less dishes to clean that way. So it's just an incredible meal here. Look phenomenal. Hey, Dance Critters, thank you for joining us. So then we go into Baja Wildman. And these, Baja's videos are pretty creative. He does a little bit of cooking, does some video gaming, he does something that he's kind of introduced me to, something I'm actually going to try is magnet fishing. Basically, it's a 1,100-pound magnet that you throw into bodies of water and see what you can pull up. I thought that was pretty cool. I'd never heard of it before watching his video. Hope you guys can list all the Meatloaf words in the description. Yeah, the actual introduction video, Ed, has all of them listed. So when this is published tomorrow, I'm going to edit the description, and all of them will be in there. So you can hyperlink from the description, and you can hyperlink from the actual. We're going to put the links in that as well. So you'll be able to access it both ways. So the novel thing with this recipe from Baja Wildman is that this is gluten-free, and instead of using bread or oats or anything, he's using grits, which is a corn product, if you're not familiar what that is. This looked really good. I love grits. I'm a huge grits fan. Some people say, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine eating them, but they're just finely ground corn. So this was a pretty interesting recipe. Somebody said Life and More Reloaded. I've never even heard of it before. I didn't know magnet fishing was a thing. But watching Baja's channel, and there's Google it or look at it on YouTube. There's a whole lot of magnet fishing channels, and they were pulling out. I've seen channels pull out guns, bicycles, anything metal that magnet will stick to. They can bring up out of the water. I loved Southern or Little Red. I love grits. I grew up on grits. So yeah, Miss Lottie Da. She has the only exclusive turkey meatloaf in this entire competition. Now others used chicken, but she used exclusively turkey in her recipe.
And my ingredients over here.
Battle Farms, I agree. It's one of my favorite breakfast foods, but I'm kind of a purist. People put cheese in them and other kinds of things to kind of flavor it up. I'm just like salt, pepper, and butter. That's it.
My dish here and form it into the loaf.
So this is kind of a traditional meatloaf, other than it's turkey. Recipe looks amazing. Wait till this thing is all finished up and comes out.
All right, look at that. It is done. It is ready. And it is delicious. I just tried a little.
So interestingly, most of these recipes were glazed. Some of them were not. Most were, though. I make a chicken parm meatloaf, but I had already made that one, so I couldn't enter it. Oh, okay. Hey, Micro Farmer, welcome. How are you? So that brings us up to the next one, which is our cabin in the woods. I think Tony's on here tonight. And this was the first of the smoked recipes. Tony got all fancy with this one. I was wondering where he was going, and he kind of rolled it out on his counter. And it's like, I was joking when I think in the comments I said, if a meatloaf and a cinnamon roll had a baby, it would be this recipe, because he kind of rolls it up like a cinnamon roll and puts stuff inside. It looked pretty darn good. I mean, I can't think of a few things better than a meatloaf with a smoke ring on it.
Yeah, smoke something.
Fancy Critters, thank you for dropping in. I appreciate it.
Well,
yours will be coming up in probably the next 15 minutes or so. It was one of the latter ones. So look at that. So he's got it down on parchment paper, and then he put his honey and barbecue sauce on there, and then rolled it up like a cinnamon roll, and then smoked it. So yeah, Tony knocked this one out of the park. But this was the first smoke recipe, how they cooked, or how he cooked it.
Thing up. That's the grease, but also putting that on top. That way grease will drip down in there. Look at that, huh?
Look at that. So that's a loaf right there.
Outside, and I'll show you what we got going on out there. Hell, you see the smokers really get.
I'm about to do a meatloaf Wilmington. It's like a beef Wimbledon.
Stir this around real quick.
Never heard of that before. Wow. Look at that. You can actually see smoke ring on that thing. Doesn't that look good?
Mark on it too. Look at that.
World's best right there. See, look at the smack talk that's happening in here. We'll see. We got to get all the voting done, Tony, before you can make that claim. Let the people speak.
Smoked.
So then we go on to, this was the second Page family homestead entry. This is Peggy's recipe for canned meatloaf. This next one is. I don't know why are we getting ads? Are you not logged into the account?
Ever since the hashtag Meatloaf Wars has started, I've had a monkey on my back. Why? I got something none of you have thought of.
And Andy, of course, was living with us. Of course.
Well, they've got a really great sense of humor. Vernon, that's what I said. Canned meatloaf, I'd never heard of it, but apparently it's a thing because there's other folks that have, said that they're canning various meats. When I was growing up, my mother used to can venison. I guess it would be no different than, canning venison. It's just meatloaf. So they pressure can it. And that's how they're able to get shelf life on it where it doesn't spoil. So Peggy's a hoot. She's got a great sense of humor.
We want to pack it. You can see there's little air pockets in there. We want to work it all.
So when you go through and you watch the whole video, they just basically slide that out of there and slide that out of the jar, and you've got an instant meatloaf because it's already been pressure canned.
See that?
That's just the
water. That's a rip.
That's sterile water.
Oh, this was novel. I've never heard of that before.
If you're making single servings in a pint, actually a pint's good for two if you have you're eating other foods.
Tony, you're worried about this one?
But use your wide mouth.
Oh, look at that.
Look at it, still going.
Nice.
And it's been sitting
there was another one where, they made these large meatloafs and then they made some of the meatloaf and then they made hamburger patties and froze them with the rest of the meatloaf meat. So this one is Little Red Southern Kitchen. Patty's Perfect Meatloaf. This one looks pretty good too.
Hey guys, I'm Patty and this is Little Red Southern Kitchen. And then about 80-20. I'll add some salt.
So Little Red's in here. This was a great recipe here. Now this was an interesting pan. I've never seen a pan like that. So it's a loaf pan, but it's got a drip pan underneath it. So the fat drips out of the pan and goes down underneath it. I've never seen that before.
What could go wrong, right? All right, guys. Sorry, this is cooked actually for 40 minutes, 40 more minutes, and then 160. Now I'm gonna let it cool for 15
Little Red Southern Kitchen. Well, I'm glad to see you're back up and about.
Okay. but it's not.
Glad to see you're back up.
This, I've got some instant pot.
Tony, I'm telling you, within days of people start posting their videos, I just threw up the white flag. I said, I'm not even competitive in this. People took this challenge really seriously. So the next one up is Real Life with Michelle and Rob, and I've just kind of become familiar with their channel recently once they got involved in this, and they're a hoot. Just kind of watch this intro. This literally will make you laugh out loud.
Look at how good I disguised those peas.
I like the way they edit and film this stuff, and don't take themselves too seriously.
Oh, hey, look at that go. Now the secret ingredient. I wonder if that puts the best meatloaf you've ever had in your life. Meatloaf you've ever had in your life. Egg, where's our egg? The egg to this. Okay, now I'm going to get this meatloaf out of here. And you may be wondering.
Miss Lottie, now there's a chili war going on right now. I think it's Deb's place or Deb's. Boone, are you aware of who's hosting? I'm pretty sure it's Deb's Way. Not Deb's place. Deb's Way that's hosting a chili competition. I just don't have a competitive chili recipe at all. So this recipe, she basically takes potatoes and then puts peas on top of that and then bakes it in this loaf pan. This looks really good.
Those peas are quite well.
Yeah, this is. I agree with you, Roland. I mean, she's got a great sense of humor. Yeah, that's what I thought is Deb's Way. I just don't have a competitive chili thing.
Look at
recipe.
On everything. I kid you not.
So this is a canned topping that she makes that she puts on top of this. Looks amazing.
Is the bread pan?
And there you go. Basically, it's meatloaf stuffed with mashed potatoes and peas.
I can get it out in one piece. Probably if I had something other than 2 forks, it would be easier. But yes, look.
Hi guys.
Looks amazing. Now this intro I love too. This is Britain Farm Homestead.
And we're gonna make.
And this is the second of the smoked recipes.
Everybody to bring it on because I got some tasty meatloaf.
A little bit of smack talking there. She's throwing down.
For my meatloaf. Right. This is what you're gonna need. If I should add more, I'll probably put half the jar in there.
So that was an interesting ingredient there. She used salsa instead of like a tomato sauce or something like that.
All right, half the jar is in there.
Little Red Southern Kitchen, is that what that is? Is a Rachel Ray meatloaf? I'd never seen it before. Yeah, so she loafs this thing up. This was a big loaf, and then smokes it on a I believe it's a pellet stove, pellet smoker, which is what we have. We did a video back several weeks ago. Hey, winging it with Irish Colleen, how are you? We haven't gotten to yours yet.
This is a Pit Boss.
So that's what I operate with or use as a pellet stove, and I just absolutely love it. I mean, it's really hard to screw up your meat on a pellet stove because it's a constant heat over a long period of time. Doesn't that look amazing?
Is that meatloaf? We're fixing we brought it.
All right, this next one, Peace, Love, and Hope. Now, this is a really long video. This is a 50-minute video. But the reason that it's 50 minutes is that she basically gives a history lesson of meatloaf. Really kind of a cool idea. Where does meatloaf come from? How old is meatloaf? I never had a clue about meatloaf until watching this video. So it was really cool. So before she even got cooking, she kind of taught us about, where meatloaf came from.
So where did it all begin? It's a toss-up, you guys.
And then the second novel thing about this recipe, she used an ingredient that no one else in this entire recipe or entire competition used. and I'll run it up on here in a second. It'll come up. Tell me if you realize what it is that she's using that's very novel. In fact, I didn't even know they made it anymore. You just passed it. I used to have this when I was a kid. I have not seen it since.
Here's 100%
There we go. Those are some breakfast and some lunch goodness right there. And she basically, this is a chili cheese steak meatloaf. So the cheese steak is actually these steakums that she puts into the meat.
Basically,
it's mouth-watering.
Add the steakum sliced. There's 6 steaks in this.
So she basically chop those things up and put them in the meatloaf.
Cheese.
And look at that. Looks like a lasagna. Doesn't that look amazing?
One-handed scooping is hard.
That looks good, Tony, is an understatement. I could eat half of that loaf, and I'd probably be sick the next morning from overindulging. The next one is kind of an interesting recipe. This is from Deb's Way, and it's just Deb and her husband. So, where you see some of these recipes, such as, what's the one earlier, it was like a 5-pound meatloaf. I made a 4-pound. Well, Deb's Way is just her and her husband. So she makes these mini meatloafs, and that's how it was entered. And she was the only one in the entire competition to use an air fryer to cook her meatloaf, which I thought was pretty interesting. I'm not sure how an air fryer works. We don't have one, but she just made these little personal mini meatloafs. She freezes the ones that she freezes a couple of them, then she cooked the other 2. So she can just kind of take them out and make them when she needs to. But I've never, until just recently, I've never even heard of an air fryer. I'm not sure exactly how it works or what it is, but they're gaining in popularity.
Maybe turn it over one more.
What's an air fryer, if anybody knows? I mean, how does it work? This is one of my favorite intros right here, and this is Keto Homestead with Jess. I just like her intro. I think it's creative. And this is our other keto recipe. So we had 2 of them. This is the first one of the 2.
So I have my hamburger here in the bowl. All right, I have.
And this is kind of a traditional meatloaf, but instead of using bread or oats, she's using almond flour as the binder in this recipe. So there was a couple, a lot, keto is becoming really popular nowadays, and there's a couple of channels that do a lot of keto recipes. Keto Homestead with Jess, and then check out Voon Child. Voon puts out some really fascinating videos that for things that you would never think could be done keto style, and hopefully I can. Yeah, Vernon, that's what I was just saying. Voon does some really great recipes, all keto. Look at that, baby. I love that kind of,
20 minutes and then
hard, kind of well done top on a meatloaf. That's the best part. If I could just eat the top off of a meatloaf, I would just eat that. So then we come up to Mama Z's Texas Kitchen.
Hey everybody, welcome to Mama Z's Texas Kitchen. Today I am entering in the.
So this was what Mama Z referred to as a Texas meatloaf. Really looks amazing. Now she says something in the video that the thumbs up is kind of how we're going to vote. That's not how we're voting, as we talked about earlier. The voting for the Meatloaf Wars will happen on this video. So in the comment section, people will come in and add their whoever they're voting on. They can vote for one channel. They can vote for all of them if they want. They just got to put in there which recipe, which channel they're voting for, and then I'm going to tally them up at the end of October. So the thumbs up is not what will count as a vote, because that wouldn't have been fair to smaller channels that can't drive as much traffic or likes to their videos.
Kid, my mom always let me
So this was a really great looking recipe here.
It's just the best way.
So as long as we've been going at this, and this is only number 26, there's 38 entries. So thanks everybody for hanging in here.
Meatloaf with our barbecue sauce here.
So this is for making some potatoes. This was the sides that she made with it. So I think I've watched all of these recipes at least 2 or 3 times. Doesn't that look incredible?
You've ever had in your life, you're going to want to try this recipe.
So then that brings us up after this one to Voon Child, which is just, this is incredibly creative. A keto-friendly chicken Alfredo. And this is one that I'm going to try. This just looks amazing.
Meatloaf. So, let's get started. Come on, another ingredient I forgot about. I'm just going to use.
So look at this. So she's using, I believe you're using turkey. Is that correct, Boone? Or chicken. I'm sorry, chicken. That's right.
And maybe a touch of pepper. And then we'll add our.
Yeah, I know. I just realized how stupid that sounded when I said it. So yeah, this would be chicken Alfredo.
The Page Family Home.
If that doesn't look good enough, wait for just a second.
Gross.
Hold. Wait until she adds the secret ingredient here.
So I'm gonna mix this up really well. Then we'll be back.
My mouth is watering. And here we go. There we go. Look at that. Look at that goodness.
About a half a jar. Yep, about a half a jar in there. Oh.
Then she puts more on top and bakes it. Oh my goodness. This one I think I'm going to try. I'm going to try many of them, but this is probably one of the ones I'm going to start earlier because Little Rick he's trying to do keto, and so this fits right into that. It just looks amazing.
It's been an hour.
Look at that.
And 35 minutes. It is, and the internal temperature is 180. It is done. We're going to let it rest for 10 minutes. And
so this next one, this is from Brian Less's Hills Homestead. Now, Brian, it was kind of funny when we first opened up the Meatloaf Wars. You know, he said there's no recipe for making a meatloaf. You just feel it and do it, and so that's kind of what this recipe is. And this is the shortest one of all of them. So we're gonna play the whole thing. It's only 1:47 long.
We're gonna get this mixed up with the onion, and then we're gonna be adding.
And he's using one of his meats in here is deer meat.
Pepper, salt, and garlic powder. We're gonna get this mixed in the deer and the beef. We added a little more.
Vernon, I agree, buddy. I'm really starving.
I smell it. Put seasonings in. Now we added 2 eggs, and we're going to put some crackers in here.
Tony, if you finish second, I don't feel bad because I'm pretty convinced at this point that I'm going to finish number 38 or 38.
Our meatloaf in the
again, I don't. I realized very early within days of this that my recipe is not even competitive, and I thought I had a really great recipe.
We took it out of the microwave.
All right, so moving on. Now we got Lori's World, and Lori's another one that I didn't have any exposure to her channel prior to the Meatloaf Wars, and she's got a great sense of humor. I really have enjoyed kind of watching some of her content. Some of her videos will have her mother in them. It's just kind of funny watching them interact. Well, this is another one. There's a couple of videos where they pull out the heavy equipment, they pull out the KitchenAid and make it happen.
Then I'm going to throw in some Worcester.
Nothing, I agree. I mean, he was, Nuffin saying the same thing. Is that he threw down the gauntlet saying how great his meatloaf recipe was. So, yeah, we'll see. The voting's going to tell the story.
I mean, we get all that flavor from it, and I put
so her meatloaves, they were pretty amazing looking.
kind of smooshed it together.
Basically a meatloaf with some cheese in the middle of it, but it's applewood smoked cheese in the middle of that, and then she covers it up and then bakes them. I'm like, boy, that looks amazing.
And make oh my goodness! I just put it under broil until the cheese.
Look at that. Mm-mm.
Piece that I threw in there. Yeah.
Southern Life Homestead, you should have threw your meatloaf in.
Healthy and
But I can't say that because that's the very reason I'm not entering the chili wars is because I just don't have a good chili recipe. So this is another one of my favorites. This is a really interesting recipe that I've never heard of before.
To join the wall.
The name of this is the Amish Mennonite Man Catcher Meatloaf. And honestly, it kind of piqued my interest. This is one that even if it wasn't in the Meatloaf Wars, I would have probably clicked on this simply because of the name. The name is just hilarious. And she explains what that means in the video. So as we get to the end of this, we'll play that.
Oh, that's two. I wish I could say.
So what this is essentially a meatloaf that's made on top of a bed of bacon. Well, you missed. Go back, Rick. Right to about there.
Yeah.
So it's a layer of bacon with a meatloaf on top of that,
And take it.
with macaroni and cheese on top of the meatloaf, covered by another level of bacon, and then baked.
Well, I just count it.
It's just, that's insane. I mean that's all I can say about that.
Take a little from here and take a little from there. And just.
So now you're going to take this layer and throw the macaroni and cheese on top of that.
Now we have to wait for our macaroni. Our meatloaf is finished.
And that's what you end up with. That's amazing looking. So it's a layer of bacon, meatloaf, macaroni and cheese, and another layer of meatloaf and another layer of bacon. So now go to 2730, Rick. This is funny. This is just listen to this description.
I'll tell you the story behind.
I literally was laughing in my seat.
When I met my husband, when we were dating, this is the first meal that I ever cooked for him. He was living with his mom, and I called her up and I asked her if it would be okay if I cooked him.
She's going to get a little bit more airtime.
She left me to the house, and I snuck him in.
Simply because this is funny.
And some mashed potatoes and this cheese corn, and I made him cherry pie because I knew that I found out from his mom that was his favorite. And so he came home from work. He was completely unsuspecting. He had no idea I was even coming over. And so when he got there, he had this meatloaf and taters and corn and pie. And so just as he was sitting down to eat, his best friend showed up and they had plans to go coon hunting. And so his buddy was like, hey, do you just want to stay and eat? And he was like, oh, no, I'm going hunting. So he ate real quick and he went coon hunting. And so whenever anyone asked him what made him want to marry me, he always jokingly tells them my meatloaf. And so it's always jokingly been referred to from then on as the man catcher meatloaf. And apparently it works. I don't know what it is about this particular meatloaf that makes men fall in love with you, but I've had two friends who were single who made this meatloaf for the men who were dating, and they're both married to those men now. So maybe there's something to this. I don't know. Maybe if you're single and you need a good way to hook a man, maybe this recipe is for you.
So that's the man catcher meatloaf. I thought that was hilarious.
Afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to My Tiny Retirement.
All right, then we go into My Tiny Retirement. This was a bacon cheeseburger meatloaf, and basically how this was introduced is anything that you would put on.
What I'm doing today. We are making meatloaf.
Isaac,
and
hush.
it so happens that there is a meatloaf.
Making too much noise. So this is anything that would go on a bacon cheeseburger is in this meatloaf.
Hashtag meatloaf war. I'll put it in. Oh, Stanley has to go outside. Okay. Okay, now here is the part. You want to be careful. You want to make sure everything is incorporated. And a nice
Reverend Grandpa Prepper, glad to see you're back on your feet, sir.
awful lot of breadcrumbs. That is an awful lot of bread. This may be a mistake. But anyway.
Micro Farmer, have you made that tiny retirement meatloaf?
Nice even layer. Nice even layer. It's been in there a good hour. Oh, you guys look at that.
Hey Ed, welcome back.
Look at that.
Well, look at that. So it's basically like a meatloaf and American cheese lasagna.
On the meatloaf au jus.
That was pretty amazing.
No, a lot of you meatloaf.
Then we come up to Spitfire Red, and this was one that I thought was pretty interesting. It's a sofrito meatloaf, and a sofrito is as I understand it, is a spicy mix, a mix of spices that's popular in Latin American cultures, and this just looked really, really good.
50 degrees. I got her recipe on her phone here, according with mine. Okay, we got about 2.5 pounds of hamburger, about half a pound of mild sausage.
So this is Spitfire Red. She was recently injured as well, so I'm glad to see her up getting around again. Go back just a little bit, right? So where she's coming into the photo or into the frame.
Okay, so now what do we got to do now? Got to put.
No, that's all right. She's going to be at the end too.
That's a Frito.
So she had someone else by proxy make her meatloaf for her because she's in recovery, kind of in rehab, at home. It looks like what it sounds like, so she had someone else make that for her. So this is Spitfire introducing her recipe.
Oh, this looks really fantastic.
Looks pretty amazing.
It's my recipe, but team effort. Spitfire,
Hey, Highland Homestead, welcome. We already did yours a little bit ago.
Carrots, guys. There's corn. So.
Then we come up to Dancing Critters Acres, and Dean was on here a little bit ago. I don't think he's on here anymore. He said he had to go do some chores. And this was kind of an interesting recipe. This was a cross between a loaded mashed potato meatloaf and a Swedish meatball meatloaf. He said he couldn't determine which one he liked better, so he combined both of them together. Highland Homestead, you got a little cold going on? It's getting cool up there now. So this was a great looking recipe as well. So kind of similar to the one earlier. So he's got mashed potatoes in there, and then he puts a lid over top of that. So this has got mashed potatoes inside, and then he puts this Swedish meatball sauce on the outside.
I love how meticulous he is.
I know. I mean, that was another thing that struck me watching a lot of these videos. They made literally, there's a lot of effort that went into making the perfect form meatloaf.
It's so meticulous when
Kind of funny.
forming the meatloaf itself.
Guys, I've got to help Christy with the chores, so I'll catch back with you guys in a bit. I'm gonna get this tossed in the oven, and then we'll come back in about an hour or so.
Carrots.
Down Under Farm and Forge, you talking about using the thumbs up, or are you talking about the way that the voting is going to happen?
Getting this served up.
Highland Homestead, it's high in the low 70s up here in Northeast Florida today. This has been a beautiful day, the coolest that we've had thus far. So that brings us up to winging it with Irish Colleen, and this is a pepperoni pizza meatloaf. This is another one of my favorites.
There's a huge list. I'll copy and paste Lala Farms list.
So it's basically a traditional meatloaf that then she tops with pepperoni and pizza sauce, and it looks pretty good. She said that that she kind of got into this because she was didn't have all the ingredients for a more traditional meatloaf, so she used pizza sauce, and she's been doing it like that ever since. And this just looks really, really good. So this is number 34. We've got 4 more after this one. Frank and Tina, I agree. I'm starving. I come home about 30 minutes before we went live, so I haven't even eaten yet, and then I come up here and do this.
There is our pepperoni pizza meatloaf.
So look at that. Doesn't that look amazing? So it's meatloaf with pepperoni and pizza sauce on top. There we go. And then that brings us up to Down Under Farm and Forage. Down Under still on here. This is an Australian entry. And this is a smoked meatloaf with bacon, mozzarella, and onion jam. When I first read that, I'm like, what in the world is onion jam? Take a look at this.
System with me today, so this will be fun.
Frankly, onion jam looks pretty amazing.
It's cooking at midnight tonight.
So he's basically boiling down or cooking down onions, and then he adds brown sugar and balsamic vinegar to it.
Keep it on a low heat, and we're just going to reduce it down to a jam-like consistency.
Doesn't that look amazing?
Nice and jammy now. When we scrape it off the bottom, no liquid. In a big sort of square shape.
This is kind of similar to our cabin in the woods. So now he spreads it out and is going to roll it up like a cinnamon roll.
Okay, next up, we're going to put our jam on.
Mozzarella. Whew.
As you can see, at this stage, after it's cooled off, it's nice and
then the onion jam on top of that.
And absolutely delicious. So we just roll it all up.
Now the funny thing is, when I was watching this, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, that's amazing!" But then, right when you think that the Down Under's finished, then he throws in another curveball that just
while it's on the board
makes your mouth water. He ain't done with this one. This is amazing. So then you smoke it
on the smoker, just to add a nice depth of flavor to it.
Still not done.
Loaf. Okay, and here we go. Secret ingredient number 3, and this one is the topper. We are going to wrap the meatloaf in bacon. What could be better than a bacon wrap?
So if you think back earlier, there was the other recipe that did the weaved bacon as well, and that's exactly what this is.
Just making it all nice and neat.
And then he just throws it over that whole meatloaf on the grill, tucks it in like he's putting it to bed, and then Sweet Baby Ray's on top of it.
Okay, folks, and here is our...
Look at that. Is that not culinary goodness or what?
Like, this is my favorite. This is my favorite meatloaf. It is. Whoo.
I mean, that's like culinary goodness right there.
Final product.
All right, then that brings us up to Missy at Shore Homestead. I'm doing these in the order that they came in. So Missy was on here a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if she still is. Missy is new to our channel. I hadn't seen her prior to Meatloaf War, so I'm glad she kind of jumped in. It's called a triple threat meatloaf with mushroom gravy. This looks really amazing as well.
Use whatever seasonings I feel like and that I have on hand at the time.
So the way I'm going through this is the very first entry that came in, which was nothing edited, is the very first one that I highlighted. The last one that we're going to do is the last one that came in. All right, so there you are, Missy. Glad you're still here.
Meatloaf is actually going to make 2, mixing everything up.
See, she's another one. She just digs right in there with her hand. That's what I do. I just wash my hands up and I go in.
Over the past week or so here in Maryland, which really.
Camo and Bow is welcome. And this was kind of a cool idea, putting the parchment paper in there. I know she, in the video, she says she did that because she had some rust on one of the sides of the pan, but I'm sure it makes it a little bit easier to get out.
And then drain them, but first I filtered. I'm going to bring that to a simmer.
Good brown gravy. Oh my goodness.
Simmer.
Go back just a little bit, Rick, where you see them ice cubes. This was a great idea. So what Missy did here is to save broth, she basically throws it in ice cubes, and then she can just grab them whenever she wants. I'm like, that's a really cool idea. Never seen that before. Wouldn't even think to do that.
True to form, there's Maggie drinking while I'm trying sauce for the meatloaf, so it doesn't need to be.
So there's that brown gravy goodness that's going to go over that meatloaf. Doesn't that look good? And then we come up to what I consider to be the most unique one in the entire Meatloaf Wars, which is Meatloaf Muffins from Simply Jan Homestead. Meatloaf muffins, you ask? Check it out.
Oh, I wish you could taste that. It is
Homemade tomato sauce there.
I was going to say half, but I'm going to add my hamburger. Of course, my bowl's all mixed up, or moving around rather. And I'm just going to mix.
So when Jan just got this submitted, I just entered it today. And when I looked at the title of it, I'm like, what in the world? Or the description, what in the heck is a meatloaf muffin? Well, that's a meatloaf muffin right there.
With some bread.
So she basically took the recipe and put it into a little muffin pan, made little mini meatloaf. So this is like, look at that. Doesn't that look amazing?
With the side of garlic herb pasta.
I mean, that's such a great idea. I mean, that's something that you could just grab quick and eat on the fly. And this is the last one that came in prior to our live tonight. This came out today. This is Petway Family Homestead, and they titled this The Best Meatloaf Around.
We soak it in milk, and I'll put y'all back up in there, but
So I love to see all the fresh eggs that folks are using in these recipes. Yeah, Urban Grandpa Prepper, this one just came out today, is when this was uploaded. This one as well as Simply Jan's recipe. So they're relatively new, so that doesn't surprise me that you haven't seen this one. Doesn't that look great? This one here, we got to watch this. Back up so you got the beginning of the baseball scene, Ricky. I put this in here just because it's funny. So she had to take a break so they go to a t-ball game.
Get back out there because you don't stay out there.
The little boy runs over and basically says, you know, they never let me catch. So, and watch this. When the batter's up, the ball gets hit. Watch how everybody just collapses at the pitcher's mound.
Go, run, run.
So they got to urge him, so he just politely hands over the bat. Now watch the pitcher's mound here. I don't know what's going on there. That was hilarious. All right. So now they get back home and they finish up the meatloaf. So that's the recipe. We're going to plate it here in a second.
go release it the whole way and then finish making that. So here is the finished.
And there you go. I mean, that looks like that looks amazing. So that is the last one that we're going over tonight. That was the very last entry that came in before this live. And I'll check tonight to make sure nobody gets one in under the bell by midnight. And if we don't get another entry, that's the 38. So this video will be posted tomorrow. We're going to put links in there to the channels in the video itself. We're also going to put links in the description so that it'll be really easy if you want to see the whole video to be able to link back to that very effectively. So you can look at the whole thing, and then the voting will work by you simply going to the comment section on this video and commenting what you want your vote to be. Now, if you want to vote for all 38, just put that in there. At the end of October, I'm going to manually tally all of these in the next live stream, the next one or two live streams after that. Then we will announce who that winner is, and maybe we'll try to get them on live and talk to the Meatloaf victor. So other than
the champion,
the winner of all things Meatloaf. So that's all we're doing tonight. We had the giveaway for the chicken plucker finger video and this one, and I hope this has been good for you. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I certainly have. We've had a better outcome than I ever imagined. I would have been super happy if we got 20 people participating in this. 38 just blows my mind. So go out to your channels, rally up the troops and send them over and get voting on this video of who's going to win the Meatloaf Wars.
Edited on here.
Huh? I know, I look goofy.
The colors and stuff on here, unfortunately.
All right, folks, that's all we got for tonight. So we're finishing up with how many people? I don't know, still 26 people. That's fantastic. All right, folks, I enjoyed this. This was fun. Thank you for sticking around, watching all of these with us. And look for this video. Usually takes about 24 hours for it to come back up on, I don't know, all that fancy stuff there. But so it's got to render from StreamYard and all that jazz. But we'll put the links in there, get it edited, so it should be up by tomorrow evening with all the appropriate links in there.
Lori, you're very welcome. Lori says thank you.
Well, thank you for participating, Lori. This
is a great collaboration.
This has been a fun time. That's all we got. Any questions?
No, Ed says go eat.
I need to eat. I am starving. And then I come up here, my mouth is watering. It's just like I almost feel like I've got to drool and wipe my mouth because I'm starving. So
you go eat. We're gonna close it out. Thank you guys very much for watching. Like Papa said, send all of your followers this video. They can go ahead and drop a vote down in the comment section. Thank you guys for using the farm. Don't forget, always treat others as you would like to be treated.
He stole my line.
I didn't say it again then.
Treat others as you would like to be treated.
That's always better when you do it anyway.
All right, all. Good night.
Good night.
All right.